What's going on, everybody? C4 here, and welcome to my way too early mock draft here for the upcoming 2019 NFL Draft. Now, the draft order that we are using here today is based upon up to Week 4. You're probably going to be seeing this after Week 5. Give me a couple days to get the upload out. So there's some pretty weird draft spots. Like you have like the Ravens picking at 30, Bengals at 28, Dolphins at 26, and then you got the Eagles and Patriots at 16 and 17, which, let's be honest, not gonna happen. So with all that being said, this is my third time trying to record. I got something, I don't know, I'm getting a lot of, and I was like, all right, sounds like something X-rated going on in the background, so let's just, maybe take my time a little bit more. Well, also, the first time I also did this, it was over an hour. I don't want to hold you guys up for that long, because I feel like defending the pick, now's not the time to defend the pick and go into super depth. Why? Because the draft order's so out of whack, but we're going to try our best, and let's get into the mock draft. So if the season ended today, number 1 would be headed by the Arizona Cardinals, and I have them selecting Nick Bosa, defensive end from Ohio State. When you look at what Nick Bosa can bring, now he's a little bit banged up right now. He's got to be probably back in December. Production, man, this guy still, regardless of when he comes back, as long as he's healthy for the combine, healthy for offseason workouts, this guy is a stud. He's the younger brother of Joey Bosa. Don't know if he's going to be the exact same type of player as Joey Bosa. Don't know if he has as high of a ceiling as Joey Bosa, but you look at 2017, 16 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks. This year, 3 games, 14 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. He's an absolute game changer. And, when I look at the Cardinals defense, I see Chandler Jones, one of the best edge rushers in football. I look at Robert Nkemdiche, might be having a breakout year. Don't think Ed Oliver is as good of a compliment to Nkemdiche as Nick Bosa would be on the opposing side of Chandler Jones, which is why I'm going with this pick. You got Wilkes. He's a defensive coach. He's going to probably go somewhere on the defensive side of the ball, and I think Nick Bosa makes a little bit more sense than Ed Oliver. While I have Ed Oliver as my number 1 player in this year's draft, I think Nick Bosa to the Cardinals right now makes the most sense, and they're going to go with him, Chandler Jones, Robert Nkemdiche, who hopefully can continue his breakout season. He was really good at Ole Miss. And there you go. The Cardinals have a legit front 4. Going to pick number 2, we have the San Francisco 49ers, who currently hold the number 2 pick because they just can't stay healthy. They get to reap the rewards of all their injuries. Jimmy Garoppolo, McKinnon, by selecting Ed Oliver, defensive tackle from Houston. You might be saying, C4, this Ed Oliver guy, Houston, why do you say he's the best prospect in the draft? Well, 6'3", 300 pounds, moves like an athletic middle linebacker. Here's his production through 3 years in college. 165 tackles, 43.5 tackles for loss, 10.5 sacks, 10 pass deflections, 4 forced fumbles. He does it all. That would also bring 4 first-round talents on the San Francisco 49ers front 4. Eric Armstead, Solomon Thomas, DeForest Buckner, who's one of the best young defensive tackles in football. Then you throw in Ed Oliver. This is a team that hopefully you think when they're healthy, they're going to be able to have the Kyle Shanahan engineering that offense with Garoppolo, McKinnon, so on and so forth. Defensively, though, they're kind of like, they're not really complete. They got Sherman, they got Buckner, you got Reuben Foster, but what else do you really have? It's all right safeties, maybe underrated safeties. You throw in a guy like Ed Oliver, this is going to be a team that's going to be talked about as one of the most balanced teams in football. And I think for the 49ers, if they're sitting here at 2, this is a home run pick. Can't miss pick. Can't mess it up. Going to pick number 3, we have the Oakland Raiders, and they are selecting Devin White, linebacker from LSU. This is a team that has perennially undervalued the linebacker spot. They've needed linebacker help for quite some time. They got Tahir Whitehead. He's all right, but this is still one of the teams that is worse against the run. They're probably bottom 5 team against the run in the NFL. And, they have the luxury of 2 first-round picks because of the Khalil Mack trade, which still can't believe that was a thing. So I think maybe now's the time when there's a legitimate top 5 linebacker. And I don't know if I'm ready to say Devin White's better than Raekwon Smith. Raekwon Smith pretty much was a regen Patrick Willis. But Devin White, never seen a guy that's that jacked and that athletic. He's a much better physical specimen, I would say, than what we saw with Raekwon Smith. And I think if you're the Raiders, you have to drastically improve your linebacking core. You have Derek Johnson, who's like a 1-year rental, kind of a Band-Aid, and it's showing. Go out and get your franchise linebacker. Now, we know Reggie McKenzie doesn't really value linebackers, but that's John Gruden's team right now. John Gruden's going to say, hey, we're getting linebacker. We're improving against the run. We need to make this defense not miss Khalil Mack, or else no one's ever going to like me again. So this is how it starts, by getting Devin White at pick 3. And Devin White's production, man, he looks 6'1", 240. Last year for LSU, 133 tackles, 13.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks a pick. This year, he's probably going to get similar numbers when all is said and done. Again, you don't want to throw around the word can't miss too much because it loses meaning. But very much like Ed Oliver, like Nick Bosa, Devin White, can't miss prospect here. Easy pick for the Raiders. Pick number 4 is currently held by the New York Jets, and I am selecting Greedy Williams, cornerback from LSU. He is my top defensive back in this year's draft class, 6'2", 182, prototypical size. Now, I'm not sure how well he's going to test at the combine, how well he's going to play in shorts. He's a ball hawk. When he has cleats on, all that stuff, he's a ball hawk. He's everything you want in a cornerback. 6 picks last year as a freshman. He's a redshirt sophomore, so I guess there could be a chance that he doesn't actually declare. But this year, off to a hot start. 5 games, 2 picks, 2 pass deflections, shut down corner. And when you look more so at the Jets, they paid big money to Tremaine Johnson. You have Jamal Adams. You have Marcus May. You're going to lose Claiborne and Scron in free agency. And you have Todd Bowles, who's like a DB coach by trade. You get a guy like, I can't even pronounce his first name, Andreas. That's probably it. We're calling him Greedy. You get a guy like Greedy Williams, you pair him back there, you're going to have one of the best secondaries in the league. That's going to shore up that defense side. Well, I think offensive line, probably the biggest area of need. No offensive lineman in this year's draft class is worthy of a top 5 pick, and I think Greedy Williams is a home run for the New York Jets. Going to pick number 5, we have the New York Giants, and they are going to fall ass backwards into their quarterback. You can't tell me they don't have the worst GM in football. I still can't believe they didn't take Sam Darnold, but I mean, if this was the long-term plan, was hey, we're going to suck again this year, so let's get Herbert. They succeeded, because I have at number 5, the New York Giants selecting Justin Herbert, quarterback from Oregon, and well, you know, everyone was kind of pounding the table about, Drew Lock, Jarrett Stidham, all these guys, Will Grier being QB1. I have been Justin Herbert since day one. He's 6'6", 233 pounds. So far this year in 5 games, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's like if you combine Marcus Mariota, Jared Goff, Marcus Mariota, Jared Goff into one prospect, it is Justin Herbert. Now you still get the luxury of Eli Manning probably playing there for a year until he hands the reins off to Herbert. I would assume similar to what they did maybe in Cleveland or to a lesser extent Arizona. I don't know if he'd be getting handed the keys right away to the empire, but you throw in Herbert with Saquon Barkley, with Odell Beckham Jr. As an Eagle fan and a rival in the NFC, a little bit worried about that matchup long term. So I think this is your time. I can just wait to see the Giants just mess this up and not go quarterback. Like, oh no, Eli's still our guy. You have the opportunity to take Justin Herbert at pick 5. You gotta take it. Going to pick number 6, currently held by the Indianapolis Colts. I have them selecting N'Keal Harry, wide receiver from Arizona State. He has that rare trait that you look for in a wide receiver. That whole, even if he's covered, he's open. You have that trait, you are a first-round talent every day of the week. 6'4", 213 pounds so far this year. I think it's 400 yards, 5 touchdowns in 5 games last year. 82 catches, 1,100 yards, 8 TDs. He's a monster, man. I don't know how well he's going to test you at the combine. If he runs really slow, could hurt his draft stock a little bit. But I'm more so looking at this from a Colts standpoint. The Colts defense doesn't have a lot of big names transitioning from a 3-4 to a 4-3, but they're performing pretty well. You look at the offense, middle of the park. And if you have Andrew Luck as your quarterback, you should not be settling for middle of the park offense. What do they have as weapons? T.Y. Hilton, nothing else at wide receiver. You bring in a guy like N'Keal Harry, not only is he just an upgrade from a wide receiver standpoint, but he's also a very good complement to the already established wide receiver that they have there in T.Y. Hilton. Good pick, Colts. You're welcome from C4. The Houston Texans currently hold pick number 7. I have them selecting Jonah Williams, offensive tackle from Alabama. Now, there's kind of a debate who the best tackle in the class is between him and Greg Little because Trey Adams from Washington suffered an injury. Doesn't matter. I think the Texans, either way, whether they like Williams more, Greg Little, I think Williams might be viewed as a safer prospect. Texans got to go offensive line. Like, I feel bad right now that I projected the Houston Texans to go to the Super Bowl because I knew their offensive line was that bad. They need to protect the franchise, Deshaun Watson, and a guy with a very, very high floor in Jonah Williams. He's going to kind of be like Quentin Nelson to the Colts. He's going to walk in. Do you want him to play left? Do you want him to play right? Either way, he'll start at either spot. Easy pick for Houston here. At pick number 8, we have the Detroit Lions, and I have them selecting Rashawn Gary, defensive end for Michigan, staying with in-state. Now, kind of think, when you think about the Detroit Lions, who would Bill Belichick draft? Because Patricia's the disciple of Bill Belichick. And when you look at what the Detroit Lions might be losing, looks like Ziggy Ansah's probably going to be in his last year with Detroit, so they need defensive end help. Even with Ziggy Ansah, probably still need defensive end help. So getting a guy like Rashawn Gary, who's flexible and very much like the Detroit Lions defensive scheme. Are they a 3-4, 4-3? They're like a multiple defense. And for that kind of front, Rashawn Gary might be the perfect pick. Not only that, he is just a Bill Belichick, therefore Matt Patricia style player. And getting him at 8, I mean, if this was any other draft class that wasn't this loaded at defensive line, Gary probably, with how well I expect him to test at the combine, would have been a top 5 pick. So at 8, easy selection for the Lions. At pick number 9, we have the Buffalo Bills, where I have them selecting Greg Little, offensive tackle from Ole Miss. Bills, if you have your franchise quarterback in Josh Allen, well, you definitely still need skill position players, and I think if N'Keal Harry's there, maybe they go him. If DK Metcalf, redshirt sophomore, declares, could go him. But for right now, you gotta protect the franchise. Deion Dawkins, we see it from the Husky series, the Toronto Husky series. It's the Bills. Dog shit offensive line. Deion Dawkins, probably the only guy on that offensive line that has any upside. He's a tackle. Still kind of view him as a right tackle. Get a guy like Greg Little, who very well could be the top tackle in this year's draft class. He probably should appear and test more athletic than Jonah Williams. So he's one of those guys, has a higher chance to bust, I think, than Jonah Williams, but also brings that higher upside. And I think either way, Buffalo needs to take a stab at bringing in another tackle to protect Josh Allen, and Greg Little is that guy. Pick number 10, held by the Atlanta Falcons, who very similarly to the 49ers, I don't think they're a bottom 10 team. They've just been destroyed with injuries. Deion Jones, Keanu Neal, Ricardo Allen, Landry Levitri. They're holding on, but probably aren't going to finish super high in the standings this year, unfortunately, for you fans of the Dirty Birds. So sitting here at pick 10, I was selecting Dexter Lawrence, defensive tackle from Clemson. They're a team doesn't have a lot of holes, so I'm trying to look at maybe what is something they've lost over the last couple of years they haven't been able to replace. Don Terry Poe, built like a nose tackle, built like a 3-4 nose tackle, but they were able to utilize them and have that fantastic pairing with Grady Jarrett. They don't have that right now. So sitting here at number 10 is a 340-pound athletic freak from Clemson. Again, if the top end of this draft wasn't filled with D-line talent like Gary, Ed Oliver, and Bosa, think Dexter Lawrence would have gone higher in another year. So this is a good value pick here for the Atlanta Falcons. Bring him in, be the run stopper, be the guy that eats space, to let Grady Jarrett do his thing, to let Tack McKinley, to let Vic Beasley. These guys do their thing. He's the guy that I believe will make everyone else better, as well as upgrading that second defensive tackle spot for the Atlanta Falcons. Pittsburgh Steelers are here at pick number 11, and I am selecting Amani Oruwariye, cornerback from Penn State. As much as it pays me to say, looks like Joe Hayden has lost a step. Artie Burns has been like the worst corner in football. I think he's given up like a perfect QB rating every time he's targeted. Luckily enough, Mike Hilton's a really good nickel corner, but that defense, I think the bad performance of that secondary is maybe more telling than Le'Veon Bell's absence on the offensive side of the ball. So for me, you gotta go best corner, and DeAndre Baker from Georgia's still here, but for me, I'm going with the rangier, duffest name that you're probably gonna have to say in this year's draft class, Oruwariye. 6'1", 200 pounds from Penn State, had 4 interceptions last year. Through 5 games this year, 2 picks, 4 pass deflections. Is a good rangy guy. Still, with the cornerbacks, I need to wait and see how these guys test at the combine, because, I mean, it takes one of these big corners, can have a Josh Jackson fall where they run a 4.55, high 4.5s, and you have these guys running 4.3s. The stock is going to change. But as looking at just tape, I think Oruwariye is my second corner out the board after Greedy Williams, and the Pittsburgh Steelers desperately need secondary help right now. I have that priority number 1. Next up at pick 12 is the Minnesota Vikings. Number 12 is all you get with that Kirk Cousins money. You salty fan base. Whatever. I have them selecting linebacker Josh Allen from Kentucky. Now, when you look at the Vikings, they're going to be kind of tight on money coming up. So I think they're not going to pay Anthony Barr. And oddly enough, make the Barr-Josh Allen comparison. Remember how Bills quarterback Josh Allen jumped over Anthony Barr? That probably signaled the end of Anthony Barr not getting a big-time contract. So you look to get another freak linebacker to replace him. And Josh Allen is a freak linebacker. 6'5". Weight fluctuates, probably would say 240. This guy single-handedly was like the guy that led the charge for Kentucky to upset Florida this year. First time in 30 years Kentucky beat them. Last 2 years, here's Josh Allen's stats. He only has 5 games this year. Last 2 years, 21 tackles for loss, 13 sacks, 100 tackles, 5 pass deflections. He could drop back into coverage, and he's 6'5". He's 240 pounds. This would be a tremendous fit for the Minnesota Vikings defense. At pick 13, am I reading this right? Pick 13, we have the Cleveland Browns. Sure, why not? I have the Cleveland Browns going David Edwards, offensive tackle from Wisconsin. Yet another Wisconsin offensive lineman that is just going to be really, really good in the NFL. They pretty much just churn out. It's like a factory up there in Wisconsin. They eat cheese and they make offensive linemen. But when you look at the Cleveland Browns, that is a glaring weakness on the team. Right tackle, overpaid for Chris Hubbard coming from the Steelers. He's average at best. Left tackle right now is undrafted free agent Desmond Harrison, who is just a good athlete. He's not looking good. You have Corbett, who could play tackle, but they're keeping him at guard. Same with Joe Bitonio. So go get a really good tackle. You have your franchise quarterback there in Baker Mayfield. You got to get a guy like David Edwards. Good upside, good length, good versatility. I think he can play actually a little bit of guard at some point during Wisconsin's last 2 years. They've been really, really good with the run game with Jonathan Taylor. I think David Edwards is a smashing pick for the Cleveland Browns, and I think offensive line is the spot they go. Unless they really want to reach for Trey Adams if he declares. I think he might go back to Washington after that bad injury. David Edwards very well could be, and most likely will be, the third best tackle in the draft. Next up at pick 14, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I have them selecting Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, the safety from the University of Florida. Now, the last time he drafted a DB from Florida, still waiting on that one to pan out in Vernon Hargreaves. But when I look at the Bucs, after Chris Conte got stiff-armed out of a job, I look at this defense needs to get better. They got to go best player available on the defensive side of the ball. Could definitely use a safety to pair back there with Justin Reed. Thinking corner, but they invested in 2 corners in the second round last year. MJ Stewart, Carlton Davis from Auburn. So I think grabbing a safety could be, outside of maybe offensive line, the best area that the Bucs can look at targeting, unless they want to give up on Jameis Winston and look at quarterbacks. We've got Drew Lock, we got Will Grier, Tyree Jackson, Ryan Finley. These guys are still on the board, but for me, I think getting a safety to just pull that entire secondary together is what they need. And Chauncey Gardner-Johnson from Florida, converted corner. So he has that corner cover ability. He played corner as a freshman, had 3 interceptions, 3 pass deflections. Last couple years, he's just been a more versatile DB-ish. Like at least right now, this year in Florida, he's playing safety, and he's also playing money backer because he's a good tackler. 6 feet tall, 210 pounds, jack of all trades. I think it would be perfect fit for the Tampa Bay Bucs, who decided to pass on Derwin James last year. And maybe outside of replacing Jameis Winston, which I don't think they will do, solidifying that secondary should be the next top priority. Pick 15, Seattle Seahawks. I was selecting DeAndre Baker, cornerback from Georgia. They got to rebuild the Legion of Boom. It's not going to be named the Legion of Boom, but that secondary needs some help. After the Earl Thomas middle finger, good to say that that's gone. Richard Sherman, gone. Brown and Browners in prison. Cam Chancellor's retired. They need to start rebuilding that in a big way. I think Bradley McDougall can cover for Cam. He's graded out really well from Pro Football Focus. Has a great start to the year. You look at the other safety. They've drafted Tedrick Thompson from Colorado. They drafted Delano Hill from Michigan, I believe. Like, they have draft picks ready to take over for Earl Thomas. You look at the secondary, though. You got Shaquille Griffin. You got really no one else. Guy like DeAndre Baker at pick 15, debatably slipping a little bit if he's still here. He is a guy that if he runs really, really fast at the combine, put some good speed behind him, he could jump up draft boards and solidify himself as maybe a top 10 pick. But where I have him right now, he's productive. He's a little bit undersized, not your prototypical Seattle Seahawks secondary player where you see Browner 6'3", Sherman 6'3". He's 5'11", 185, a little bit smaller, but I think he gives you that added versatility that they really do need in that secondary. Plus, Shaquille Griffin, who's their best corner right now, is not that big. But DeAndre Baker, 3 years really starting at Georgia, 7 interceptions in the SEC, 19 pass deflections, almost 100 total tackles. He's a very, very underrated corner, I think, for his tackling ability for a guy that's that small. I think he'd be an excellent addition to rebuilding the Legion of Boom, and obviously not going to be called that anymore, but rebuilding the secondary in Seattle. Pick 16, my Philadelphia Eagles. This was a tough one. I've gone back and forth on it, and I've come to a conclusion, and I actually agree with one of the top mock drafts that are out there right now, Matt Miller. So, first of all, when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, plenty of spots they can go. Secondary, they can look at safety if they want to move on from Roddy McLeod. Malcolm Jenkins is not getting any younger. If they want to take Jalen Mills, move him to safety like they should, they're going to have some holes there at cornerback. Ronald Darby's probably going to hit free agency. If you do move Mills, that means you got probably Rasul Douglas and Sidney Jones on the outside and Avonte Maddox in the nickel. Maybe you want to add more security there. You could always look at adding another linebacker. You could look at, what if Brandon Graham doesn't re-sign? Maybe defensive end is where we go. There's Colin Farrell is still on the board. I think on the offensive side, though, is where we're going to go. I believe that they like Jordan Mailata to be the future tackle, so we don't need to worry about Jason Peters' replacement just yet. So then I go to wide receiver, and what don't we have at wide receiver? We don't have that deep threat guy that can get separation, or at least he's not going on the field right now. Shelton Gibson could be that guy. He's not getting reps. Mac Hollins could be that guy, but I feel like I remember when he did get reps, he was rotating in with Nelson Aguilar in the slot. Mac Hollins is a height, weight, speed type guy on the outside, but unless he comes back from IR this year and kind of plays down the stretches, like, man, this guy could be a legit outside wide receiver. Mike Wallace is on a 1-year rental. We do not have that deep threat, so we need a guy that can get big chunk yardage plays in this draft. Alshon Jeffrey's the big body guy. Nelson Aguilar in the slot. So there's 3 wide receivers here. One that I really, really want, but I don't think he's going to declare. He's probably my favorite wide receiver in college right now. That's DK Metcalf from Ole Miss, 6'4", 230, averages 20 yards of reception. He's just a freak of nature, but he's a redshirt sophomore. I have a gut feeling he's going to return. There's no insider knowledge. I just kind of feel like that's maybe the direction he's going to go. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, another big body guy, not so much a burner, but averaging over 20 yards a catch, 6'3", 225 from Stanford. Here's the pick for me, and I agree with Matt Miller. Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown from Oklahoma, 5'10", 170-ish pounds, averaging well over 22 yards a catch. He's Deshaun Jackson. We need an in-prime Deshaun Jackson. We need that complement. We need that dimension to our offense. Now, you might be saying, C4. I mean, Hollywood Brown, he had 1,000 yards last year as a sophomore. He's on his pace to probably get 1,400 yards this year. I think, easy comparison for him is he's a better D.D. Westbrook, and D.D. Westbrook ripped it up for the Sooners, and he's looking like a pretty good wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But you're going C4, 170-pound wide receiver in the first round. Well, I mean, look at some of the top premier speedsters right now and how unstoppable they are. Will Fuller, people said he was undersized. Tyreek Hill had the off the field. If we're doing a redraft, Tyreek might be going top 10, top 15 in that draft. They're usable. You can use these small outside guys. And I think what you look at Marquise Brown, what he adds to the offense, he's going to make everyone else better too. It's not like we're just adding a guy that he makes one area better. Marquise Brown's going to open up things for the tight ends, Ertz and Goddard. He's going to open up things for Alshon Jeffrey. He's going to open up the middle of the field for, like those tight ends and Nelson Aguilar to work in the middle. He is a dimension to this offense that we have been unable to provide Carson Wentz with. And while this is probably going to change 10 times over, right now, I like the idea of adding Hollywood Brown. And even at 5'10", he has a really good catch radius. I've seen him make some wild catches that a guy of his size should not be making for Oklahoma this year. And I'm on board right now with Hollywood Brown at pick 16, which definitely, trust me, is going to change. Phil's going to be picking at minimum like 25 plus, right? Right, everybody? That's not an Eagles fan. But give me some Hollywood Brown right now at pick 16. And for the continuation of just this team's clearly not going to be picking here, we have the New England Patriots at pick 17. I am selecting Ryan Finley, quarterback from NC State. Now, Ryan Finley's not my second quarterback right now. I do have Herbert, Drew Lock, and then Finley. But unlike Lock, and maybe even unlike Herbert, I think a guy like Ryan Finley's skill set is, plug and play in that New England Patriot offense. He has the prototypical size, 6'4", 212. He likes to stand in the pocket. And if you're the New England Patriots and when Tom Brady has to hand the keys over to another quarterback, you want as seamless of a transition as humanly possible. And I think Ryan Finley offers that right now. And I mean, I'm kind of talking like his stats aren't good. I mean, so far through 4 games for NC State here, 1,300 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, 1 pick. He's very accurate, has a cannon of an arm, and I just think from what quarterback in this year's draft class maybe might not have the highest upside in a Josh McDaniels system, but what quarterback can develop and is not going to have to, have McDaniels reinvent the wheel. He can just run what's worked with Brady and move on to the next guy when Brady decides to hang it up. I think that guy, as of right now, is Ryan Finley. At pick 18, we have the LA Chargers, which was kind of like the first hard pick, I would say. I was kind of stuck on. I had to even go in my Discord and get people to kind of brainstorm. If you're not in my Discord, check it out in the video description below. Great spot to talk football and everything like that. So when you look at the Chargers, I mean, I don't feel like Phillip Rivers is starting to fall off yet. I think the Chargers might go the Tom Brady approach, or at least what they're doing right now with Brady is wait until the last second before you get his successor. I think they could go offensive line maybe, but there's no one really here at 18 that I think is worth that value. Then you look on the defensive side, nose tackle, get a D tackle in there, but I think with Lugier, 3rd-round pick last year, and Justin Jones, they're fine. Then you got to move into the linebacking core. Denzel Perryman set to be a free agent, so who is the best and maybe most versatile linebacker still on the board? And I think that's Anfernee Jennings, linebacker from Alabama, 6'3", 260, brings that really, really good versatility. A lot of scouts are seeing him as a guy that can play inside. I still view him kind of as an outside linebacker, but I think with that versatility, you could see, maybe Kaiser White move into the middle linebacker role, and then you can have Anfernee Jennings flex out to the outside, or you just have Anfernee Jennings play middle linebacker and play outside and just sub packages, move them all over the field. Anytime you get a player that's kind of interchangeable regardless of what base defense you want to run, that adds some extra value. Throw in the fact that he's an Alabama linebacker, I think that is a really, really nice pick there for the Chargers. But if you're a Charger fan, let me know where you want to go, man, because this was the first team that even I didn't really know what direction this fan base wants to go in. Do you want to draft the successor for Phillip Rivers, or do you want to just get best player available that can help that defense that's been pretty poor so far here in 2018? Pick 19 is the Dallas Cowboys. What? The Cowboys ahead of the Eagles? That doesn't make sense. I mean, I guess the tiebreaker. Anyway, Dallas, if you look at most mock drafts, they have them going Noah Fant tight end. I kind of think, get someone that can be, what would Noah Fant bring to that offense? He would bring red zone ability first and foremost, right? So why not get that, but at a wide receiver? Because I need wide receiver even more so. Resign Cole Beasley, you got a slot guy. You got Michael Gallup, I think there's some upside there. So I have them picking J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, wide receiver from Stanford. Big-bodied guy at 6'3", 225. Excellent jump ball specialist. So far this year in 5 games for Stanford, 400 yards, 8 touchdowns. He's just a mismatch nightmare, and he's averaging almost 20 yards of reception. So he can kind of do it all. Complete wide receiver. A little interested in seeing how well he tests at the combine. Might not be the fastest overall guy, but I definitely think he's a legit first-round talent at wide receiver and gives some weapons for that Dallas Cowboy offense that is really, really lacking anything outside of Ezekiel Elliott. Now, the question is going to come, if you give these outside weapons and they develop into legit outside weapons, does the issue come back to the man that's throwing them the football? All right, moving on to pick 20, the Green Bay Packers. I have them selecting Montez Sweat, outside linebacker from Mississippi State. I think it's going to be the end of the era for Clay Matthews in Green Bay, just too expensive and too many roughing the passer penalties. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Oh, my God, that was so frustrating, huh? Of course, I had to come against the Redskins, too. But Montez Sweat is a very, very good replacement. Look at him, man. He has all the intangibles. 6'6", 245, good athlete. He transferred from Michigan State in his 2 years starting for Mississippi State. Here are his stats. He has well over 60 tackles. He has 23 tackles for loss. He has 16 total sacks so far. He is just a guy with a whole lot of upside that loves getting after the quarterback. That kind of reminds me of a guy that in his prime was pretty good at doing that for the Green Bay Packers. Clay Matthews. I think that what Clay Matthews brought in his prime, what he was getting paid for that he kind of has slipped off a little bit, is what Montez Sweat can bring to the Green Bay Packers. And the best thing about it is you get a guy that can replace Clay Matthews, so you're replacing what you're probably going to lose in free agency, and you still have another first-round pick that you got in the Marcus Davenport trade with the New Orleans Saints. So we'll be back in just a little bit with the Green Bay Packers' second pick. Next up at pick 21, we have the Washington Redskins, which was kind of a tough pick for me because, first of all, the prospect I had them getting, I don't know if he's going to declare because he's a redshirt sophomore. But when I look at the Redskins, the glaring hole for me is the interior of the offensive line. You have Schriff, not much else. So I have them selecting Tyler Bidasz, center from Wisconsin, one of the best centers in college football as a redshirt sophomore. He's from Wisconsin. As we already talked about in this video, they pretty much just churn out really good offensive linemen, and they desperately need a center. Chase Roulier, not going to cut it. You could maybe look at a guard, but I don't think there's any guards right now at 21 that offer that kind of value. There's another Wisconsin player that I have going in the first round a little bit later, maybe, but I think improving the interior of that offensive line, welcoming back Darius Geis, helping establish that run game. That, let's be honest, I think the Redskins for the last, since I've been watching football anyway, have always been a run-first team, and they have been this year with AP for some success, but I think just getting younger and improving that offensive line for me is the direction they could go. They could look at wide receiver. You might want to look at maybe getting younger at corner because, Josh Thorne's not getting any younger. This is another one, kind of like the Chargers. I don't really know where a lot of Redskin fans want this pick to go. So for me, I'm just going to try to improve, get a good guy that's a legit first-round talent at a spot that the Redskins definitely could use an upgrade, and that's at the center spot. And Bidasz is that guy. Big reason why Jonathan Taylor, who if you don't know who he is, watch college football, is as successful as he is because Bidasz is making dim holes. Pick 22, currently belonging to the Denver Broncos. I have them selecting Drew Lock, quarterback from Missouri. Now, hear me out. Let's be honest. Case Keenum experiment hasn't been so great. So you have 3 touchdowns, 6 picks. So I kind of view this as putting the carriage before the horse, if you will. Because usually when you get a rookie quarterback, you want to have an experienced veteran. So what the Broncos did was they got the experienced veteran, paid him that overpriced money a year before they got the quarterback that he needs to groom and he needs to kind of be the stopgap for. So I think a guy like Drew Lock last year threw up 44 touchdowns in the SEC. That's almost unheard of, man. SEC defenses are like no one other in college football. The fact that he had that with Mizzou is not even that prolific of an offense. Surely had some good playmakers. Emmanuel Hall is really, really good. Jamon Moore is another one. They have a good tight end. But still, that kind of production is pretty freaky. He's off to a good start this year. I think he has like 1,300 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, 2 picks so far. But I think he is another one of those guys. Prototypical build, 6'4", 225. I think the Denver Broncos are going to be itching to get a quarterback. And seeing Drew Lock still on the board at 22. Now, they could be a team that wants to trade up. But I feel like with the money they invested in Case Keenum, they're going to take whatever quarterback is still sitting there. So you still could look at Will Grier, Jarrett Stidham, Tyree Jackson. But I think of that group, Drew Lock has the most upside. And there you go. You might have you have a brand new franchise quarterback here in Drew Lock, Denver Bronco fans, and you already have the stopgap in place in Case Keenum. Going to pick 23, the steal of the draft so far, we have the Carolina Panthers, and I have them selecting Colin Farrell, defensive end from Clemson. How he's still there? He's a legit top 10 talent. Just needs, a lot of these teams ahead of them didn't really need an edge rusher. They're sitting there for the Panthers, and I think the Panthers desperately need one. Mario Addison, kind of old. Julius Peppers, kind of old. Who do they else have? Wes Horton? No. Guy like Colin Farrell that has that legit top 10 talent. Here's what his stats have been as a 3-year starter at Clemson, and still taking the fact that this year's not done. He has 128 tackles, 37.5 tackles for loss, 20.5 sacks. So far this year in 5 games, 7 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. Like, I really want to put him up higher. I don't see any, like Philly, the Eagles, maybe if Brandon Graham doesn't re-sign, they can't reach an agreement there. That could make sense. Tampa, maybe. You can look at Minnesota. Like, there's a bunch of other spots that Farrell will go, and if I probably do this mock draft in a couple months' time, he might very well be in that top 10 because he is a legit top 10 talent. I mean, he might not, blow the roof off the combine. Don't know how athletically gifted he's going to be in comparison to some of the other guys that are getting drafted before him, like the Rashawn Garys and Nick Bosa's and stuff. But he is like, it's one of those things. If this was another year, like, I think he should have declared last year, because if he was next year, he's a junior, he could still return. I don't know if Dabo Swinney can work some magic, but he would probably be maybe in a top 5 pick in another draft. It's just the fact that this draft's so stacked at defensive line. I think a lot of teams are going to actually kind of undervalue all the talent because they're just like, well, these guys are still going to be there, because not all these teams that are picking in the first round need defensive line help. So I might be able to get them in the second round. I think that's going to cause some of these talents to slip. And 23, if Carolina can get Colin Farrell, franchise defensive end, they are absolutely laughing, especially with looks like they hit a home run with Dante Jackson. 2 big guys like that added back-to-back drafts on the defensive side of the ball to help out Cam in that offense. Really, really good. Tennessee Titans are up at pick 24. Another tough team, man. Tough team to predict where they want to go. They could look at wide receiver. A.J. Brown still on the board. Could look at offensive line in the interior. Michael Dieter's on the board. We'll talk about him in a little bit. You could look on the defensive side. They're going to be losing maybe 2 outside linebackers in Arakpo and Derek Morgan. I think they'll have that covered with Harold Landry. And maybe you could look at, a linebacker there. But for me, they've kind of had a rotating second safety. They brought Vaccaro in on a rental. They have Kevin Byard, who 8 interceptions. I think he was second-team All-Pro, maybe first-team All-Pro. I think they go best player available, and that is Deonte Thompson, safety from Alabama to the Tennessee Titans. Really, really good playmaker. Has some off the field, which I think could have him slip a little bit. But in his first year as a starter so far in 5 games has been maybe the most impressive player on that Alabama defense. 26 tackles. I think he has a sack. He has 2 interceptions, 4 pass deflections, making plays left, right, and center. A lot of scouts compare him to Malik Hooker, who's coming out of Ohio State, now a member of the Colts. Looks a little bit, because you just make the comparison because they wore the same jersey. A little bit like Ha-Ha Clinton Dix or a Landon Collins type. Like, I think he's the next line in the safeties. And you could pair that with a Kevin Byard in that secondary with a Adoree Jackson and Logan Ryan. This is going to be a variable defense that already is, I think, overperforming where a lot of people thought they'd be. Now they're going to be feared, I think, if they could shore up that secondary by bringing in a playmaker like Thompson alongside Kevin Byard. Now, maybe the same type of player. No one is really going to be that Jonathan Cyprien just blow up against the run in the box safety. But, I mean, the league's kind of moving against that, man. It's a passing league. Having 2 safeties that can cover almost as good as corners, that's kind of scary. I think Vrabel would jump all over that. If not, outside linebacker, I think, would be the pick. But give me Thompson to the Titans at 24. At pick 25, we are welcoming back the Green Bay Packers. This is the pick that they get from the Saints. I am selecting A.J. Brown, wide receiver from Ole Miss. Finally off the board. You look at a lot of mock draft sites. He's like the number 1 wide receiver. Watching him play, he's not better than DK Metcalf. We're just going on the assumption that Metcalf is not declaring. He struggles to get separation. I think he's going to be a slot wide receiver. 6'1", 225 pounds. But that's what they need, man. I think they're going to have to replace Randall Cobb, so why not get a guy with a lot of upside? And that's going to be a good fit. Another weapon for Aaron Rodgers. Make up for getting rid of Jordy Nelson. So far in 5 games for Ole Miss, 400 yards, 3 touchdowns for A.J. Brown. And, he'll definitely finish over 1,000 yards. I think I'm a little bit lower on him than some. I think he kind of compares to the play style anyways of like Cortland Sutton a little bit. And he slipped to the second round. So I don't really know how I feel about A.J. Brown so far. I got to continue to watch the tape, continue to watch and evaluate his games. But I mean, who you got to trust me or a scout? And all the scouts like to rant and rave about this guy. So I feel maybe a steal at pick 25 here for the Green Bay Packers. But ultimately, I view him as a slot wide receiver and a replacement for Randall Cobb. So if you take a note, Packer fans, you lose Clay Matthews, you bring in Montez Sweat as an instant replacement. You lose Randall Cobb, you bring in A.J. Brown as an instant replacement. And the beat goes on. To quote Randy Savage, and the beat goes on, and the beat goes on. Pick 26, currently held by the Miami Dolphins. Kind of ridiculous saying that, but whatever. They just released Jordan Thomas. That's his name. Can't remember his name. The tackle that they had from Oklahoma that was pretty good. They desperately need to get younger on the defensive line. So with all the talent there, I have them going with maybe someone that's kind of surprising to hear with some of the names that are still there. I'm going Jerry Tillery, defensive tackle from Notre Dame. Great size, 6'6", 305. So far in 5 games this year, 13 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 6 sacks as an out-and-out defensive tackle. I think he can come in, be a day one starter with Devon Godchow. This is going to be a team that's probably losing Cam Wake, probably losing William Hayes. You need a guy that can do it all, and as well as affect. You need a guy that it can go in the middle, ideally, because you can probably have Charles Harris move to one defensive end spot, and you have Robert Quinn on one. So get a guy in the interior like Ndamukong Suh that can get after the quarterback. And I think Jerry Tillery is an excellent fit here for the Miami Dolphins, considering the roster moves they have just recently made. And for me, he's rising ahead of some of the other big-name defensive tackles and defensive linemen that are still on the board. Pick 27, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, when I made this pick, I was looking at what's going on with the Jags. And I think the Jags, they're kind of like, what team was it? I was talking about Minnesota. They're going to have to probably free up some cap, but they're kind of getting tight against that cap somewhere. So I think they need to look at doing is, Marcel Darius, Malik Jackson, Avery Jones, one or if not two of those guys are eventually going to be cap casualties. So get the replacement right now. And with Jeffrey Simmons, defensive tackle from Mississippi State, still on the board, guy that if it was another year, he'd be maybe a top 10 talent, has some off the field. At 6'4", 300 pounds, get that depth. Get another just luxury kind of pick here, thinking long-term, thinking about your salary cap for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So far this year, in 5 games, he has 21 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss. Last year, as a D tackle, 12 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. It's excellent production in the SEC. I think he definitely can succeed. I'd probably say right now he could walk over Marcel Darius for some snaps, but you got to get some cap flexibility there, be it, getting rid of Darius, getting rid of Malik Jackson. I think a guy like Jeffrey Simmons is a home run, forward-thinking pick here for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Elsewhere, you could go offensive line, maybe get another linebacker, but I feel like best value here is still these freak defensive linemen that are just slipping because there's so much talent. So with a guy of Simmons' talent still being there at 27, reap the reward, Jacksonville. Up next at pick 28, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. I have them selecting Michael Dieter, offensive lineman from Wisconsin. I say offensive lineman because he brings great flexibility. Can play guard, can play tackle. And when you look at the Bengals' right side of their offensive line, it is dog shit. Left side's not so bad. You got Billy Price last year. That's a good start. But continue to build up that offensive line to help out Andy Dalton, help out Joe Mixon, and that run game. I think that with Dieter from Wisconsin, so you're getting a really good prospect. That versatility makes him, right now he's currently graded as like a first, second round player. But anytime you get that kind of versatility, a guy that's a plug and play at 2 different positions on the offensive line, I think that makes him almost a surefire first-round player. If the talent is there, I think Dieter has that talent, and the Bengals continue to shore up their offensive line here in the first round. Pick 29, the Khalil Mack pick. The Raiders are up on the clock again, formerly belonging to the Chicago Bears. I think they got to go defensive end. They got to try and get a guy that's going to just live in the shadow of Khalil Mack. So looking at the defensive ends that are still available, there's some guys that are interesting. You got Jalen Jelks. You can maybe say Raekwon Davis if you want a little bit of a bigger boy. I think he's more of a 3-4 type guy. You got Brian Burns. You got O'Shane Zimnes. Probably butchered that name. The dude from Old Dominion. Quinnen Williams, a little bit bigger. Zach Allen, Austin Bryant. Guy Fan from Wyoming. Sharif Miller. Chris Winovich from Michigan. Bunch of options there that they could go with, but I think the right pick is my dude. I've been a big fan of him for quite some time. Joe Jackson, defensive end from Miami. Uber production. He's played full 3 years for Miami so far in 3 seasons through 5 games this year, including 98 tackles, 26 tackles for loss, 16.5 sacks. I mean, this year, too, he's playing with that J.J. Watt thing. I think he's an elbow injury. 6'5", 265. I think he's a guy that will start right away. And you pair him with P.J. Hall, Mo Hurst, Arden Key. I mean, that's a defensive line that's not gonna make you forget or make the Khalil Mack trade sting any less, but at least you're going to get that production, because right now they're not getting sacks. And if you need sacks and sitting here at 29, look at the names that are available, Joe Jackson is your guy. And I think he's a good fit for the Raiders style, and he would be a great fit for a John Gruden defense. Going to pick number 30, the Baltimore Ravens. Probably going to change. I'm selecting Raekwon Davis, defensive end from Alabama. You're probably going to lose T-Sizzle, so you're going to lose that production from getting after the quarterback. So I think getting someone just doesn't have to be outside linebacker, but just someone that can affect the pass should be priority number one. And Raekwon Davis, Alabama prospect, even though it's not Ozzie Newsome making the players, they still have that good connection between Ravens and getting Alabama players. I think a guy like Raekwon Davis, 6'7", 315 last year. So he's been off to a little bit of a slow start this year. I don't know if he's been injured or anything like that. But last year in 2017, this guy's a freak of nature. 6'7", 69 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, and a pick. He's an animal, man. He's like, he reminds me of like David Irving from the Dallas Cowboys, who's really good if he can just stay out the juice. So I think Baltimore, that you can use Raekwon Davis to upgrade over Brent Urban, who's starting at defensive end, have a really good front three, and that should help you in the loss of a legend like T-Sizzle and after getting after the quarterback. I think you could also look at the offensive line here, but I just don't really have anyone that has a better value than Raekwon Davis from the offensive line. I think that's probably second, third round where the Baltimore Ravens should look at building up that O-line to get ready for the Lamar Jackson era. Pick 31, held by the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm selecting Trayvon Mullen, cornerback from Clemson. When you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, their offense is on fire right now. Their defense is hot trash. And they really kind of shot themselves in the foot, I think, by moving on from Marcus Peters and not having a clear replacement for him. Kendall Fuller's been all right, but you need to go out and get another corner. And looking at the available board right now, Trayvon Mullen, I think, is that guy. Clemson, don't know how well he's going to test at the combine. Could very well emerge as a height, weight, speed corner, but 6'2", 190 pounds. Is pretty productive. He's a ball hawk. No interceptions yet. I mean, everyone in that Clemson defense has just been, they were still waiting. They're still stuck in first gear. But last year in 2017, 40 tackles, 3 picks, 3 pass deflections, and is developing. You can kind of see the shades, the traits of a shutdown corner. I think you got to find that complement to what they have there in Kendall Fuller. I like the Tremon Smith pick that they had last year, underrated player from a really, really small school. But you still got to go out and get that guy that can be Marcus Peters' replacement. And when you're looking right now at the corners, it's starting to get a little thin when you're picking. Like, maybe it's a little bit gambling. I'm not going to come out and say he's a super safe prospect. You could very well say maybe Michael Jackson from Miami, Jamal Peters from Mississippi State, Kendall Sheffield from Ohio State. These could be maybe better options. I think Sheffield probably was the only other interchangeable guy for me right now. I just think Trayvon Mullen, because he's a little bit bigger, might possess the traits that they're looking for in an outside corner right now in Kansas City. But I think if you're the Chiefs at 31 with Mullen and or Kendall Sheffield still on the board, either is a win-win pick. And finishing up at pick 32, we have the LA Rams. Rams aren't winning the Super Bowl, but through 4 weeks, I'm selecting Derek Brown, defensive tackle from Auburn, 6'5", 325 pounds. Can fill in that Ndamukong Suh role because obviously Suh's just on a 1-year rental. He will give that flexibility to have Brockers. If he's still there, he might be a cap casualty, but more so Aaron Donald to do what he can do. We're seeing just how suffocating that defensive front is, and I think having that very, very valuable defensive tackle is going to help them out. Derek Brown through 5 games so far for Auburn this year, 21 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Again, man, so many of these guys, if this was a different year, they'd be top 15 picks, top 20 picks, because there's so much talent. They're going to be slipping through the cracks. And you look at the Rams, everyone does know that their glaring weakness is their linebackers. And I mean, there's still some guys on the board. I'm not so sure if they're bona fide first rounders. Trey Lamar from Clemson, TJ Edwards, Wisconsin, Mac Wilson from Alabama. To a lesser extent, you maybe that's probably it, to be honest with you. They could do that, but I think if your end goal is to affect the run, which is what they can be susceptible to, get a really, really good nose tackle to make sure you don't lose and don't have that big drop-off from Ndamukong Suh onward. And then you can look at the second round, third round to improving your linebacking core. So I think Derek Brown would be a great way to top off the first round and really just be a summary of this year's draft, that a guy that kind of talent is still going at the end of the end of the first round is pretty ridiculous. And that's not even, we still got some guys that we can talk about that they're currently slipping into the second round. Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle Clemson, Draymond Jones, Noah Fant, Jarrett Stidham, Will Grier, Jaquan Johnson, the safety from Miami. All these really talented players. I still, for my first mock draft, have them slipping to the second round. This was a different year, man. This is a really talented draft. Those guys, they are all first round talent type players. Maybe, I don't know, I'm maybe not as high on Jarrett Stidham as other, but everyone else is legit. So there you go, guys. That is my very first mock draft. You don't want to know how many times I've recorded this 40-minute. This is my third time recording it. So I spent almost 2 hours recording this to get it the way I like it. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you have any thoughts or takes on where I had your favorite team picking, let me know in the comment section below. Also, if you maybe want to give me your input. Like, I like looking for diehards' input on where they think their team should look at upgrading in the draft. I use that information to help me with my future mock drafts that you're going to see on this channel. So if you have any information to provide for your team, feel free to do that. As always, your first time stopping by, hit that subscribe button. We are Draft Central for all things college football and the NFL draft. I don't know, because this video is super long. 1,000 likes for our first mock draft will be pretty cool. But I don't know. Let's say I'll be happy with 400. You always set the goal high, you know. But thank you guys for watching, and there will be future mock drafts coming. I'm not going to do them super frequently, but I think you probably could expect a mock draft maybe every month and a half, 2 months, probably every 2 months for right now until the college football season ends. So hope you guys did enjoy it, and until next time, it's C4 saying peace